Yo folks, Christopher Brownlee, your carnivore lawyer. I thought I'd do another video because I came back to the office in Torrance and I got all these calls. Since it's June, that means it gets warmer, and when you're in a humid area like LA County, you start getting more mold. It's all the humidity. So I already did a video on why you have to keep the humidity very low if you're in a very vulnerable place such as LA County, or if you're in you're in Florida, a couple other places too, or if you're in Louisiana. I know get those, but so I get all these calls, mold claims, whether it's against their landlord or against an HOA or a prior builder. I always tell them they're never going to get better unless they get out of the mold. And if you're trying to find a new location, you have to make some modifications. So first of all, you need to see if there is mold. So there's sometimes options where you can find these mold inspectors, but there's a lot of crooked mold inspectors and there's a lot of scam artists out there. And all these people are going to really do is they're going to take some air sampling, okay? They have to take an air sampling from the exterior portion, which is your outside. You know, they can do it on the balcony, or they can do it in the front yard or the backyard. And they have to check the mold spores count from the exterior of the building and then compare it to the inside of the building. And when the mold spores are greatly, much greater on the interior portion than the exterior portion of the real property, that is usually indicative of mold, and that is what you use in a mold report, and that's what they usually cite down as one of their kind of the basis. And I'll use that in an evidentiary trial or in expert depositions too. So instead of hiring some of these mold, there are some good mold inspectors, but there's a lot of scam artists out there. You could do it on your own. So guys, I'm just going to try to save you guys some money. So there is a couple different places that you can buy these air sampling. There's gotmold.com, and there's one new one, I think it's My Mold Detective, okay? And I actually bought it because I go to different properties and different area codes, My Mold Detective, you can actually get it online. They have some promos, and it's really cheap. You buy basically an air sampler that's basically a vacuum. So what it does, you put an air sample, you put it in here, and it basically, actually you keep it open and it will draw all the air in a vacuum and compress it into a tight kind of fixture, and then you seal it up and you send it to a lab. And it's very accurate, you'd be surprised. I actually did a deposition with a mold expert, and they're talking about some of these devices. It's almost the same exact ones you're gonna do if you hire an expensive licensed mold inspector. So you can do this on your own. So they'll have these cassettes. That's what they have, these cassettes where they'll draw the vacuum and it'll suck in all the air from the interior or the exterior portion, and you do it for about 5 minutes, and then it automatically shuts off. You seal it, you put it in a bag. You do by room. I'll go living room, I will go kitchen, I will go bathroom, and then I'll check, you got to do it exterior. So you do it like on the front yard or the backyard or the balcony. You have to compare the outside. Well, you send it in, and they'll show you the exterior kind of base sample, and then they'll compare all the interior samples, okay? And then you'll see the mold spores on the report on whether the mold spores are much greater on the exterior than the interior. Unfortunately, since I learned all of my mistakes over the years, I learned how to keep things very dry. Even though I'm in LA County, my very office, look at my little office, 38% humidity. So you can check it right now in LA County, but the humidity is usually, I think, like what, 75, 80 or more. No, it's actually like 80%. No, that's on the exterior portion, okay? Usually interior portions, if you have air conditioning, you have air going in and out, the humidity percentage will always be less. So here's kind of a base sample. If the humidity in your interior portion of a office or a dwelling is a house or a condo or an apartment, it's your kind of living, your premises. If it's more than 60%, usually mold tends to grow on humidity that is more than 60%. So if you're in your place right now, whether it's an apartment, office building, or a house, or a little studio or townhome, or a boat's probably even worse, if the humidity is more than 60%, and you're not, especially if you don't have any ventilation, mold is really actually just growing inside your plant. So that's why you're going to see a lot of mold spores, and then the mold spores can convert to mycotoxins, and that's what really gets you sick too. So you want to keep it below 60%. So you check these mold tests, these reports, and then you can see How am I going to treat it? Okay, well, do I have to rip out drywall? Where is the water source coming from? Sometimes it's just because it is so humid, there's not any actual water damage, especially, here's a note. If you want to file an insurance claim, more often than not, is say, I got sick from mold, there's mold, the insurance carrier will actually deny the claim. This is part of most of the policies in California and many other states because the insurance policies do not cover mold. A lot of people don't know about this, but this is what typically happens if you want to get coverage. And I verify this with a lot of mold remediation specialists and contractors. If the mold was the result from water damage, whether like a busted pipe or kind of like a broken air conditioning, and the water damage caused the mold, you would say we have a insurance claim based on water damage. Now you got insurance to pay for your remediation to tear out the drywall. So look at some good options for you folks, okay? So look at, if you get a mold test and it's showing that I'm going to show some reports right over here. You can see that I got a couple properties I went to and I just tested it here in LA County, and then I tested over in Las Vegas, and then I got one out in the desert too. I'm going to show these samples, but I'm in the green, which is cool because I don't really have any mold to worry about. And if you guys remember, some of you remember me for like, even though I've healed really great since carnivore since 2018, started doing medical grade hyperbaric oxygen therapy, ozone therapy, peptides, and I'm still going. And now I'm finishing up my PhD, running for Congress. I'm feeling good. But whenever mold gets me, it's like my kryptonite, so it got me very sick. I lost a lot of weight. I basically was barely able to work, and I was just falling apart. And luckily, I got all the mold out of my system, and now I'm getting better. And put on I lost like 35 pounds, and then I put on 35 pounds over the course of like 8 to 9 months by eating nothing but meat. No, and I just took peptides, BPC 157, nothing else. Anyways, so if you get these mold tests and it shows mold, there's some things you can do. First of all, you can use an ozone generator, but those are sometimes unsafe, and it doesn't always kill the mold, and especially if you're breathing, you can get sick. Or you can get a fogger gun. If you don't have access to a fogger, I'm going to send you some links, but one thing you can actually simply do is you can use like a mister, like a misting spray. And this is something that you can actually easily get off Amazon, and if you ladies are like in a salon, you'll probably recognize this. Basically, this is just basically a very thin mist spray, and you would actually put a natural antifungal kind of like a bio, some kind of like herbs basically, and it's usually based on or essential oils. There you go, lemon oil, eucalyptus oil, and they can have these, or you can have this is from Remedy. This is called CitruSafe. But this is all botanicals, but this is actually the same as EC3, and I don't like people putting in a bunch of chemicals. Even though I'm carnivore, I think plants can be used medicinally. So this is an option, but I'm trying to see over the ingredients, but this is something actually going to help you, and you could put it in here, and this is something that can kill some of the mold spores in the air rather than spraying a bunch of like bleach and chemicals in the air. That's something you could do. If you also want UV lights, that's another option, but you have to dry it out. So keep your places very dry. If you're suspecting mold, remember, tell your landlord in writing. Also, get a mold inspector. By the way, if you want to file a mold claim, I wouldn't be using this. You got to use a licensed mold inspector, because usually the insurance company will only approve it if you actually get a licensed inspector to do the work and issue the report. But if you just want to have some peace of mind and not really worry about it, just get one of these. I'll send you links. It's My Mold Detective, and there's gotmold.com. There's a few others. A lot of carnivores, I already told you, I do a lot of free pro bono work for the carnivore community as a sign of courtesy, because it's the only community that really helped me when I was really sick. So Chris Brownland, eat meat, train hard, and let's make America great and healthy again.